Hi, I'm Jonathan Varengia from Marble and Granite Inc. We're a natural stone wholesaler out of Westwood, Massachusetts. And today I'd like to talk to you about the types of natural stone that there are and their basic chemistries. As you see, we have two types of chemistry that every stone will fall into one of these categories. The first is a calcareous stone, which is made up of calcium carbonate. The second group is siliceous stones, which are made up of silica or silicates. Every stone that we talk about, every different type, will fall into one of these two categories. As far as the formation of the stone, there are three possibilities. The first is sedimentary, which comes from the Greek root to sedum. The second one is metamorphic, which is basically going through an intense change under great pressure and heat through a geological period of time. And the last is igneous, which comes from the Latin roots of fiery, so it has to do with molten rock. The first one we're going to talk about is sedimentary formation, and if you look here, sedimentary formation is done over time with many particles settling in layers with intense pressure from water on top of it. Now, this type of stone would be a limestone, which is formed always marine-based. The land-based or continental-based would be things like travertines and other marbles. Metamorphic formation, as you see, you have the Earth's surface up here. You get a lot of pressure from the weight of overlying rocks, with molten rock underneath giving intense heat coming up through there, and that's where you get metamorphic formation. And then the last one is the igneous formation, where it's difficult maybe to see in the slide, but down here, this is unerupted molten rock. So we all know that volcanic eruption that is erupted is erupted molten lava. Well, unerupted molten rock that stays beneath the Earth's surface is igneous formation, which is most commonly known as granites. Once you look at the two different chemistry types, which are calcareous and siliceous, we can basically come up with this diagram that shows all the possibility of the types of formation and what type of stones are categorized within that spectrum. Now, one thing is, I would let you know that this is a guideline, and that there are so many natural stones out there in the market that if we were to truly categorize all of them to specifically their chemical makeup, we would literally have thousands of different categories. So there are often stones that fall within some of these lines of this matrix. So as we move forward through these, one of the types of calcareous sedimentary stone is limestone. So this is a sedimentary rock consisting chiefly of that mineral, calcium carbonate, with or without magnesium. Now, if a limestone has a lot of that magnesium carbonate content to it, it's categorized as a dolomite. Dolomites tend to be harder limestones that can take different finishes and are much easier to have a polish. That's one of the signs that you know you have a dolomite, is a limestone that is hard enough and the mineral content allows it to be polished. Another calcareous sedimentary stone, continue on with the limestones, they contain fossils often, or shell formations. Again, going back to how it was formed, it was marine formed, not continental formed. Hence, that's why a lot of times you will see fossils in certain limestones. Some of the other characteristics of limestones, that it can have some calcite streaks, or spots, or pits, or iron holes from maybe where some of the iron oxide has oxidized. Limestone can perfectly fine for exterior use, as you can see here. This is an Indiana limestone that is used in an exterior use. Another calcareous sedimentary stone, moving on from limestones, is travertine. Basically, travertine is formed almost identically as limestone, except it's formed continental-based as opposed to the limestones that are formed marine-based. A common characteristic of travertines are that they will have these holes in the backs of them. A lot of times they fill them and then they'll hone them. However, how they got those holes were basically because they formed where there were many hot and cold springs. One of the characteristics of travertine is a pronounced anisotropic property, which means they're directionally specific. If you cut a block a certain way, you'll have the veins running with it. If you cut it a cross cut, you will not see the veins. And generally it includes holes, as I said before. If you look at some of the travertine here, this is obviously one that has very specific direction to it, hence its anisotropic properties. The other calcareous sedimentary stone we talk about is onyx. It's a compact cryptocrystalline. What that means is, if you're talking about other marbles or other limestones or other stones, they'll have microcrystallines, which are the crystals that are the size enough that you can actually see under a microscope. And then there's macrocrystallines, which you can actually see with the naked eye. An onyx, with the cryptocrystalline, the crystals are so small that you can't even see them under a microscope, hence giving it a characteristic that allows it to be translucent, which allows light to pass through it. How they're formed? Typically they're in caves where there are a lot of stalagmites and stalactites. Very often used for decorative applications, onyx. As I said, it can be translucent, so a lot of people like to put lighting behind them. It is very vulnerable to chemical and mechanical attack, however. It is not very durable of a natural stone. Here's a picture of a bar that was backlit, just an example of that. Calcareous metamorphic. So now we're still in that calcareous category of the chemistry, which is calcium carbonate based, and we're moving into the metamorphic formation. This is what's known as marble commercially. It's coarse-grained to fine-grained. They can or cannot be dolomites. And one of the things about marbles is that there are varying levels of soundness. And basically, as defined by the Marble Institute of America, they have 4 different levels categorized A, B, C, and D. Basically what that means is that a marble that's categorized as A soundness has very little, if not any, repairs done to it. They don't have to fill any holes. They don't glue back some of the fissures or put in penetrating epoxies to help that. As you get down the line, A, B, C, to D, the D will have a lot of fill, there will be a lot of repairs done to it, but it's still considered first quality marble material. The thing that I would like to note about this is that based on the soundness of the marble does not correlate with the pricing. Oftentimes, some of the most sound marbles are lower in price than the ones that have a D for soundness, only because they're more difficult to work with. Marble, really the big thing with marble is its aesthetic value. It truly has a look like no other type of stone. Texture has a lot of veining to it most of the time. It can, the crystals can range from very large to very fine crystals. And it is decent for building material as well. As you see here, this is a white marble exterior. And I point out the fact that it is white because white marbles tend to hold up better in exterior applications.